Hello everyone, my name is Jason Smith, and I'm going to be talking today about sushi, on how to make sushi, and this is a very basic kind of sushi. It's called a California roll. I'm sure many of you have already tried it. Many of you have already tried it before, but it's a very basic and beginner's way of making sushi. The beginning of what you're going to need is 2 cups of rice and 6 cups of water. It's a 2/3 ratio, so if you decide to make more or less, you just multiply how much rice you have by 3, and that's how much water you're going to need as well. So some people make it with less, but you're going to want to stick to that ratio so that the rice stays sticky. You're also going to need plastic wrap and seaweed wraps. Both of those are easily obtained. The sushi ones, you're going to want to make sure you don't get the hand roll kind, because they are smaller and they're rectangle instead of more square, so they wouldn't really work very well. So yeah, definitely make sure you get the bigger kind. You also need a cucumber, avocado. Both of those, I mean, you really don't need 2 per se. It really depends on how much sushi you're going to make. You also need a sushi rolling mat, which is kind of like bamboo sticks, and they're all tied together. This helps disperse the weight evenly as you're rolling them up. Crab meat, you really need about 2 pounds of it, but you don't necessarily need crab meat. This can be like something like salmon or anything that you'd want to substitute would work as well. Some people use tofu and fruit as well, so that can be subbed out for any kind of meat or substitute. When you're making your rice, you're going to combine the rice that you have and bring it up to a boil, and then cover and simmer it for about a half an hour. When you cover it, make sure that if there's a hole in the top of your pot, that you make sure that's covered. That's going to steam the rice more effectively and make sure that it's made properly. When you're getting ready, you're going to want to take your sushi rolling mat, roll it out, and put a piece of plastic wrap over the top. This is going to make it so that the rice doesn't stick to the bamboo rolling mat, and also it's going to make it a little bit easier to clean later on. But yeah, definitely make sure that you get ready for this, because it's going to take a little bit of preparation. We're also going to have to slice all of our veggies, if you will. We have to slice our cucumber. We're going to make sure everything is long ways. That way it can fit in the long sushi roll. With the avocado as well, however you want to do that, there's no trick to it. You just kind of make it long ways. For our meats, we're going to want to make sure that we do slice it. If we are using crab meat, make sure you at least slice it in half, just because the sushi rolls, when they're that thick of crab meat, it's really not going to, it's going to fall apart because you have too much in there if you put everything plus a big fat piece of crab meat. So make sure you slice those in half. In order for when you're done cooking the rice, after it's done, make sure you fluff it. So kind of take a spoon or something and mix it all around and make sure that it's all fluffed, because when it's done, it's just going to look like a big flat patty. What that's going to do is allow the rice to kind of air out a little bit so that it's more sticky and less wet. So when we're starting, we're going to want to take a piece of seaweed and put it out in front of you and spread the rice. Make sure that it doesn't cover the whole entire thing for this. You're going to want to only cover about 2/3 of it, and make sure that the rice is the part that's in front of you, because you're going to be rolling away from you. These people, looks like they, in the pictures that we have already put the rice all the way out, but you're going to make sure that you don't do that. Next thing you're going to do is take everything that you have, like your crab meat and your avocado and your cucumbers, and put it all in the middle after it's already sliced, in the middle of the rice, so in the middle of that 2/3 part that you laid out. And then we're going to start rolling. So take your bamboo mat and push it over into the front, and as you're pushing over into the front, make sure you're pulling your bamboo mat out so that you don't end up rolling it inside your sushi. They probably wouldn't taste very good. So when you're pushing forward, make sure you're pulling your mat out as well. When you're rolling, make sure you're also pushing inside. So push in towards you. That way you make sure that the sushi is very tight, and make sure that it's all kept together so it doesn't fall apart as you're rolling. That way you don't end up with a sloppy mess when you're trying to cut it up and it'll all just fall apart on you. So very important to make sure it's tight. After you're done, once you've got to the part at the end where there's no rice, you're going to want to take a little bit of water and just wet the outside at the parts where there's no rice, and then just fold it over, and that'll help kind of make the seaweed stick to itself so that it'll seal it completely. And there you have a finished roll. It'll look something like this, sometimes a little thicker, or maybe rounder on the outside the first time, which is okay. Um, and then after this, you're ready to cut it up, and then you can enjoy. So one thing that you really want to make sure before you cut it up is that you use a very sharp knife, nothing serrated, or else it would just fall apart as you're cutting it. So it's actually very tricky. This is the trickiest part of making sushi, is actually cutting it up, believe it or not. So make sure you get a very sharp knife, and in between each cut, make sure you rinse it off. When you're using this rice, it gets very sticky. So when you're trying to cut the sushi, it ends up getting stuck to it, and it ends up pulling the sushi apart as you're cutting it. So make sure you want to rinse it off every time in between each cut that you make into the sushi. There you have it, finished product that you're ready to enjoy. So it doesn't take too long. Really, the longest part of making it is just making the rice, and that's just because of the half hour that you're going to be use making the rice. So the other process takes relatively short, and there's a lot of different kinds, as you can see. So yeah, again, my name is Jason Smith, and this is how to make sushi. So thanks for watching.